The next type of documentation is the monthly quarterly summary. Basically the monthly summary, again, up till now, the monthly summary, and again we'd be looking for monthly summaries prior to 7-8, and then from 7-8 forward we'd be looking for you to be transitioning into the quarterly summary routine. But either or, monthly or quarterly. The monthlies, you're supposed to be documenting what the system is, or what progress the person's made, what has happened in that person's life, what's significant that has occurred in their life over the past month or the past 3 months. We're also looking to see that they were completed in some timely fashion. There aren't real specific details in the handbook in terms of exactly the minimum components like there were for service log for quarterlies and monthlies, but in order for us to be able to determine that quarterly belongs to a particular individual, we would at least need to see the person's name, preferably the date it was completed, and of course the signature of the person completing it. Quarterlies, now that we've shifted to quarterlies, is driven by the support plan effective date again. Not fiscal, not from the date that the handbook was effective, but quarterly based on the support plan effective date. So different people, what you'll have to do is kind of take a look at that for each person that you serve and see where that means their quarterlies are going to start falling, and get on that schedule and that routine, and then from that point on, quarterlies will be done. This first year, your third quarterly review, and this is a change that's in the handbook as well, the third quarterly acts as also, and should be written as, your annual report for that person. Now you may be asking, well, if it's a third quarterly, what happens to the next 3 months prior to the end of that support plan year? This gets a little confusing. The next 3 months actually roll over and become the first 3 months of next year's annual. So that's this first year you're only going to have the 9 months. Next year you'll have a whole 12 months, and then those 3 will have come from the last 3 of this year. That's all I'll say about that. Had to draw myself a visual. Some examples of things, when you're writing your quarterlies, at a minimum you want to put the goals and things in there. A lot of quarterlies and monthlies that I see, providers also include things in there about rights and choice, different activities that they may have done with the person that were above and beyond necessarily specific to a goal. There could be some medical appointments or any changes like that that can be put into those types of quarterlies and monthlies. It's not required, but it certainly adds substance, and it doesn't take a lot of work. The next document is the annual summary. Kind of alluded to that a minute ago. If you provide a service that does not require monthlies and quarterlies, such as support coordination, then you would be doing your annual the same time you normally would be doing your annual. But the third quarterly is now your annual report. You want to make sure that in that annual that you're going back for the entire year and you're pulling data and information forward and summarizing the progress that that person's made on their support plan goals or just in life or whatever's been going on in that person's life. And you want to make sure that that's completed at least 30 days prior to the effective date of the support plan. And provided to the person and the support coordinator preferably, because the support coordinator can use that information to help develop the new support plan for the coming year. This slide kind of outlines what the new annual report looks like. And again, we're looking for progress. There may be data. If it's behavior analysis services, there could be data related to progress on their goals in their behavior plan. It can also identify things that here's what the recommendations are for this coming year. And you want to make sure that you go over that with the individual as well and keep them involved in part of the process. Well, that's it on the documentation. The last piece then, reconsiderations. Reconsiderations is the process of asking to reconsider the results on your review. Now, at the end of your provider discovery review, what you will receive from your reviewer is what we call the preliminary findings. The preliminary findings will only show you elements that are related to potential recoupment or alerts or documentation that was missing for any particular reason. It will not show you what was met or not met in terms of most of the other standards on the tools that we're using, depending on what services you're providing. It won't show you what was met or not met for training. These things you will have been in communication with and had conversations with the reviewer all the way through the process so that you know these things ahead of time. One of our recommendations is that when you're going through this process with us is to go ahead and download the tools yourself, have them ready when we get there, and go through it with us so that you can go ahead and write down, take notes along the way. But when we're done, what we will hand you is a preliminary findings, and it will show you those things. And we'll ask you to sign it, and we will sign it, and we will take the original, and you guys will keep a copy. What you do with the reconsideration is that when you get the report, and you decide that you don't agree with the results that we've come up with. It could be either that you felt that something you gave us at the time, it would need to be something that you gave us at the time of the review that we did not accept for some reason. Because this process, we do move along quite quickly. We do need to see things then on site when we ask for them. And what we usually will do is if there's something that's missing, we'll let you know that, okay, I'm going to be here until 5 o'clock today. If you can track it down between now and then, we're okay. We won't need to, we can accept it. Once we walk out the door, we can no longer accept documents that weren't available for review when we were there. We can't, fax it to us 3 hours later or send it to us the next day. We have to move on from that process. Yes?
What if you identified recoupment, but it wasn't my fault? The support coordinator sent me the wrong service authorization, the wrong amount on it.
It's a good question. What if it wasn't my fault that there's recoupment because the service authorization that the support coordinator sent to me was incorrect? Well, the reality, what happens is that when you get those service authorizations from providers, or from support coordinators, and we mentioned earlier that everybody has to have a service authorization, part of your responsibility as a provider is when you get that is to make sure that it's accurate, that it's correct, that it's the right person, first of all. It's got your agency on there. I've heard the other day where somebody had gotten one. It was in the file, but it was for the wrong agency, so interesting. But anyway, you want to make sure that it's the right service authorization for the right person with the right rate and the right number of units to get you through that support plan year. So if you discover that that is incorrect, let's say, for example, they've given you a service authorization for the agency rate, but you're a solo. You would want to make sure you turn around and contact that support coordinator immediately and get the corrected one in place.
Thank you.
That would correct that problem. So what happens after the review process? You get that again. So you have that in hand. And the report should be, you should have your report somewhere, within 30 days from the close of the date when we finish. You should have your report in hand. You have 30 days from the date you receive the report to turn around and submit a reconsideration on the elements that were on that preliminary findings. So you can only submit a reconsideration on the standards that have potential recoupment with them. With alerts, you'll be told to, that day that we're at the review, you'll be asked to follow up with APD in your local area within 24 hours immediately, but within 24 hours to follow up with them to find out what needs to happen next. But in terms of the reconsiderations, your report will also have a letter on it that outlines exactly what needs to be submitted with the reconsideration, the circumstances in which a reconsideration can be evaluated, and where and who to send it to. So if there is something, if you get the report and it doesn't match, let's say there was something on your preliminary findings that says this standard was met, you get the report and suddenly it's not. Everything's not met and there's all this recoupment, that could be something that you would maybe want to have reconsidered. So you would send in your supporting documentation saying this is what I showed to the reviewer, this is my preliminary findings where they said this was met, and we would have, that would be given to a manager, and the manager will have that turned around and back out the door to you, the decision, within 30 days of receipt. The reconsiderations, again, to us need to be made in writing. We can't take them over the phone. They can be either faxed or mailed. Sometimes I know we get both. Provider will fax them, and then they will also mail the hard copy. Some other examples of something that could be reconsidered are things that cannot. Again, I want to stress the fact that if it was not something that you were able to produce at the time of the review, but you found it as soon as we walked out the door, you found it the next day, we cannot accept that. This is only for things where they were presented and you feel that the reviewer evaluated it incorrectly or didn't accept it. Yes?
Should I be sending you all the things that I make corrections on? after the review?
Good question. Should I be sending you all the things I make corrections on after the review? Absolutely not. What only things that we would be interested in getting is if you're submitting for a reconsideration. That would be what we would need. With this new process, Delmarva has no longer been given the task of technical assistance or follow-ups. So any follow-up that needs to be done or take place will take place between you and your area office. They will be in touch with you, or if you want to be proactive, you can go ahead and get in touch with them and start the process ahead of time. But if you were out of compliance on a background screening and you're able to fax that into us, 3 days later, we don't really need that. The area office is who you need to follow up with to get that taken care of as quick as possible. We have a customer service representative. Customer service representative is Beth Strategias. Her phone number is 1-866-254-2075. Our fax number is 813-977-0027. If you would like to get in touch with Ms. Strategias by by email, that address is TOWNSEE@DF as in Frank, M as in Mary, C as in cat, .org. Yes, I know it's Town C, and I just said Strategias, but she'd recently got married, so that's why her email address is different than her actual name. The website, which is available, it has all of our tools on it. It has some other resources. It's available to everybody to log on to. There is no secure log on. You can go there at any time. That is www.dfmc/Florida.org.
Florida.
Florida. Beth is available here in the Tampa office Monday through Friday. Her office hours are pretty 8 to 5, and she will be more than happy to answer any questions that come in. A lot of times, if you have a question whether or not you want to submit a reconsideration, Beth can help you talk through that. If you have questions about anything about the review process, I can tell you one thing. If you happen to get a notification that you're going to be reviewed within the next 90 days, and you notice on that letter that your contact phone number is not correct, give Beth a call immediately, and Beth can make sure that that reviewer gets your current phone number so that you aren't deemed non-compliant. So that would be one really big thing that Beth could do. Beth is she can answer any of your questions. She also speaks fluent Spanish, so there's a plus there, so she should be able to communicate with just about anybody that calls in one way or another.